911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch experience. Spinning. Oh, here we go. Hey, folks. Good evening. Welcome to the Sasquatch Experience. I'm Sean, the Fork Chop Forker, here tonight with our guest host, Tom. Tom, down there underneath. Tom, wave to everybody if you would. Might be a little delay, so bear with us. There he is. Over to my left, but Henry May. And Vanny Boo Boo down. I'll get this right eventually.
Eventually.
I'm on an angle here, and everything's not quite right, but it is what it is. But, guys, we got a great show tonight. Got a little bit of a delay, I can tell already, so just bear with us as we go through. Sasquatch Experience here live on the Experiencers Facebook page, which you get access to by becoming a subscriber to our Patreon. We got a couple great subscribers here. We got Brian and Tom, and of course, Tom's here joining with us tonight because not only is he a supporter, but he's also a client. He's going to talk to us about some of his experiences here tonight.
Oh, I thought it was male pattern baldness. Oh, thank God. Okay.
I don't know. Well, I think, balls. I just did something, knocked my desk all over the place. Who the hell cares? It's live. Yeah. And we're good to go. So, Tom, thanks for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you on the show.
Oh, hey, the pleasure's all mine.
You're right, it is, but we're so glad you're here with us. I don't know if you guys have did you catch this last episode of Expedition Bigfoot?
The most recent one, yeah.
I did not.
And, Henry, what's your thoughts?
Again, it was okay. I mean, they did have some activity, apparently.
Yeah? What do you think about it? Now, the activity that they had, what's Henry May's thoughts? Because I live vicariously through you sometimes. I got to know what you're thinking, pal.
Well, I mean, they had something happen. They had vocalizations and things like that. So, who knows? I mean,
it's going to be strange if we can prove more through audio than we can through anything else about this creature being real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I tell you, there's a lot of people out there getting audio, and some of the stuff I'm hearing, guys, is just blowing my mind. It really is. I used to be a doubter about it, but now I'm starting to become more pro audio because, one, the quality of field recorders that are out there are getting so much better. The ability to kind of get more of an instantaneous upload and the ability to not just send analog sound, but a whole digital file to an expert so they can look at the waveforms and everything else is also pretty awesome. The quality's so much better. I think that's going to be part of the big thing this next year or two in Bigfoot research.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, with that digital, it's a little bit, how do I say? It's a little bit harder to manipulate it for at least following the entire project. It's just to have a hoax. It's a little bit harder because when you look at the digital audio through spectrograph, it definitely makes it a little bit easier to separate and take a look at how the audio is actually recorded, and you'll be able to get to the base. But yes, some of the stuff that's coming up lately is it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. Some of it's terrifying, some of it is intriguing, concerning, but I want to hear from our guest host here.
Me too. Tom, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself and why you're here with us, and then we'll start getting into your work here in Pennsylvania.
All right. Well, I started about 17, 18 years ago investigating the paranormal. Started off mainly in, hauntings, things like that, because even though my passion was really cryptozoology and Bigfoot, where I live in Pittsburgh, I only knew of a couple of people that were what I felt legitimate researchers. I didn't want to get out in the field with, some of the people that may not have the best of reputations. And, I wanted to get connected with somebody really legit, somebody who really knew what they were doing and did it right. Eventually, after years of investigating the hauntings, I ended up meeting Stan Gordon, which I know we're all familiar with Stan. I got to talk to him at a few events, and, he was, as I'm sure you guys would agree, just extremely gracious. He just answered any questions and really just, he let me just sit there and pick his brain for a while. So not long after that, I met our friend Eric Altman and started to communicate with Eric. And that's really when I started getting out and researching, the Bigfoot subject. And that's really where my passion has been. So I'm very fortunate to get connected with, Eric and the Pittsburgh or the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society and, kind of learning the ropes on this end of it.
Yeah, no, you've been, involved in the last, at least with me, you've become a pretty good friend. We've, corresponded on the Facebook, met us at the Mothman Festival, been a good supporter of us. And for me, it's been exciting to watch you get out there and kind of start developing your own experiences, your own footing in these places. Because I tell you, man, you live in one of the best places for Bigfoot. That southwestern PA area, which is just so absolutely ripe with activity. And now, are you native to that area? Have you always lived there, or did you move to that particular region of PA? And I guess what what sparked you?
Well, I've always lived roughly in this area. I'm from originally Aliquippa, which is about 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. I live now in Penn Hills, which Penn Hills is on the other side of Pittsburgh. I'm about 5 minutes from Monroeville, or where the turnpike runs through. So for me now to just, jump in the car, jump on the turnpike, I can be to, depending on which side of the ridge I want to go to. The farther side only takes me a little over an hour to get to. If I want to go to like the Gray Station area, which I know you're familiar with, I mean, that's maybe 35, 40 minutes for me. But, you mentioned, one of the things you mentioned just now was really one of the reasons why I didn't get into this part of the field earlier. When I first started getting into Bigfoot or first started reading, I never realized Pennsylvania, especially this area of it, was such a hotbed. When you don't know much about the subject, Oregon, California. It wasn't until I met Stan and started reading his books and his, case files that, I really discovered how much activity has really been around here.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody would know, it's Stan Gordon. The man's just a walking. I mean, I know I always call Henry the Encyclopedia SASQUATCH, but Stan Gordon, probably when it comes to just Pennsylvania knowledge, Henry, I think Stan might have you trumped just a little bit.
I think so.
Well, considering the fact that, he created his own epicenter during the Kecksburg event, And ever since then, everybody reaches out to Stan to at least give the information, and he just compiles. But yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge. But you know what? I like Stan. What a salt of the earth individual, very knowledgeable, very unjudgmental, and listens to the story, and he does not judge you upon what it is that you're sharing with him, because hey, who's to say? So I appreciate that about him.
That was always his MO, let the reader decide for themselves, what to make of these situations. Mm-hmm. So you get out there, Tom, you learn from Stan Gordon. You live in the Bigfoot kind of capital of Pennsylvania. What was your first time in the field like?
Well, it was very interesting. The first time that I went out, of course, I went out with Eric and also Ricky Cherby, and we went up into the ridge above Uniontown. We were in Forbes State Forest, pulled off to a little parking area by one of the hiking trails, kind of camped out there, and we were, using call sounds. We had all the typical equipment, the night vision, doing wood knocks, things like that. Now, this particular area that we parked at was about a mile from another area that in years past, Eric and the group had a really eventful night with a lot of activity. It's also, and just maybe about a mile or so, maybe 2 miles past that, is another area where I know Eric's talked about this sighting a lot, where two gentlemen were driving down the road late at night, and a Bigfoot, or what they thought was a bear, went across the road down, into the other side of the woods. And then right behind it came a larger creature, and it stopped in the middle of the road. They inched up to it. It actually looked at them through the windshield and put its hands down on the hood of the car. So if you've listened to Eric on some other, interviews, you've probably heard about that report. So this area that we were at on our first night out, or my first night out, was, within like a 3 to 4 mile radius of all these different locations. It's a very, very, from what I understand, active, radius for the ridge. So, we were there. We had the calls going. We heard some very high pitched howls that we couldn't really identify. But what even more astounding was, right after doing some wood knocks, Eric was knocking on a tree, and right down into the ravine of where he was standing, we heard a clear and distinctive whoop. I mean, it was as clear as you doing a call right now. A lot of other things happened that night that you wouldn't necessarily consider Bigfoot activity. Ricky and I noticed some whitish orange baseball to softball sized lights dancing through the trees. They would dance through the treetops right in front of us. Then they'd just disappear. They'd show up about a quarter of a mile down the road in the trees, stay there for a while, disappear trees. So, depending on which camp you fall into with Bigfoot, if you believe it's, just a primate, unclassified, then you don't really connect that. If you're one of the people that, maybe subscribe to the paranormal aspects, you hear all the reports, especially ones from Stan, where, there's UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings all in the same evening. And right before we left that night, just before midnight, Eric and I were talking, and we happened to be looking up, and we both fixed our eyes on the same really, really bright light up in the sky. It was stationary, and then all of a sudden, it starts moving slowly to the left, and then it disappears after about 7 seconds. So, what that was, obviously, we don't know. But again, if you prescribe to the the more paranormal theories, then potentially a UFO sighting along with whoops or, Bigfoot activity in the woods. Just depends, I guess, really on your point of view on that, how you want to interpret it. But that night in particular was fairly active, but that didn't even come close to touching some of the things that happened in further future dates.
I have a question that just popped into my head, Tom, when you brought up about the orbs. I've heard of these orbs in a variety of stories, but what I cannot recall, maybe one of the three of you know, since Bigfoot and Sasquatch goes back thousands of years through Native American lore and storytelling, what about the orbs? Is anybody aware of natives or indigenous people anywhere in the world that have stories from long ago about the orbs?
I can't think of anything that I've heard specifically about those, but that's not to say that there haven't been stories. I don't know, maybe one of the other guys might have heard something, but I mean, I'm not familiar with anything regarding the orbs.
You're going to get me to admit to a moment of ignorance, Vance, because, up until recently, I've been so flesh and blood, in my career of Bigfooting that I haven't spent a lot of time on some of the more unusual elements aside from just a passing conversation, but I actually wrote that comment down. They just said, how far do orbs go back? And I think that's something worthy, because in Pennsylvania, and I'm not saying this is any group of people or just this particular area of Pennsylvania, they are starting to get more reports of these lights being seen in conjunction with Bigfoot sightings. In fact, not just there, over in Ohio too, Hossack's Cave, there have been reports of, lights seen there. And, we've talked to Dwayne Pintoff in the past, Vance, back in, we were on The Existence of Strange Things. And, Dwayne talked about lights and a mysterious kind of portal-esque type experience that he and, again, Eric Altman had together. So as much as I don't like to lump these things together, just because it's outside my comfort zone and it doesn't always fall within my beliefs, again, a little bit of ignorance, doesn't mean there's no correlation, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I think it's worthy of notation and worthy to look into, because it's not just there. This is happening a lot in Southwest Pennsylvania, a lot up along the ridge. Tom, we've talked about that in the past. Like we've just because I haven't experienced per se doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I can tell you from my own experiences, up in Clearfield, which is on the ridge in itself, towards the upper terminus, like right off the ridge. I've been out there with other groups of people, Brian and Terry Seach. Tom, you're familiar with them, the Ruperts, where there's a flash of light that happened for no reason at all. And it happened to me out in State Game Lands 252. I took a group of about 11 to 10 people out with me to just go and experience this area, kind of a training ground where I used to take some of my old investigators. And again, we're walking through this field. It's an area just like Point Pleasant. I could take you there and show you, bunkers and all, Tom. And again, for no reason, a flash that envelops the sky, and there's no explanation for it. Are they related? I don't know. But sometimes it's got to be more than a coincidence that there's this Bigfoot activity happening, and then all of a sudden you see these lights.
Right.
What it is, I don't know.
And I was talking a minute ago about the one road that's not far from that area I just told you about, where the sighting occurred, where the creature put the hands down on the car. Right on that road. Now, I wasn't there this night, but Eric told me that him and I believe Dave Drageson and a few other people, were there a different night. And they saw lights in the trees the same way Ricky and I did this other night. And that, of course, is right on the road where this, the sighting occurred. Now, it wasn't the same night, but again, it's all within this particular area, this certain radius. And on that road, or very close to it, there's a cave system. And according to, I believe Ricky talked to a gentleman who said that he had heard that somebody who owns the property where this particular cave entrance is claims that there are a family of Sasquatch that live in these caves. And this is right in the vicinity, just within miles of the Laurel Caverns. Now, the Laurel Caverns it's a huge cave system. So, obviously it's hearsay. It is what it is, but in a certain way, it kind of makes sense. You've got all these sightings right in this particular area.
Yeah. You'd have to have balls of steel to check out.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
How about it?
Sorry about that, guys. There is a little bit of a delay.
Well, you know what? I've been begging Eric and Ricky to try to find the owner. I'd love to check that out. I mean, for all these sightings to occur right in this area, it would just be ideal to go in there and see what you could find. But
so you're willing to go in there?
So far, no luck finding out who owns it.
But I would go in there.
My biggest fear, and that's one of the things that I struggle with when I go out in the field. My biggest fear are rattlesnakes and copperheads.
Me too.
I worry more about that than I do running across a Bigfoot or a dog man or something. For whatever it is,
I will tell you guys personally.
Yeah, I would go in. I'm crazy enough.
I've had to been taken out of fields like a bride on her wedding night when a snake went between my boots on the ground. I wouldn't go back to the ground till I was sure it was. I can't do snakes. I can't do it. But and that area is kind of.
I'm the same way.
Yep, don't do them. Tom, you could kill it with like a flick though. Like you. Tom's no joke, and he's willing to go into this cave system. I think we found our guy with Tom with the titanium testicles is going to be his new name on the show. He's willing to get into that cave system. That speaks volumes because I'll watch from a distance. Okay, I'll stand there with the cameras ready for you to come out.
We'll hook up a GoPro.
There we go. I tell you what, but no, you said Gray Station a little earlier too. Tom, you've been to Gray Station, I take it, a few times. Gray Station's unique because it's an active train track. I mean, very active, as in while you're there, several trains will go through. And I've had a lot of encounters. Now, you go back years to some people that aren't in the field anymore. We've had rocks thrown at us there. Eric could tell you that. I got missed by a rock, probably the size of, a good sized rock that went right between me and Billy Willard. And that was coming at us with some attitude. Some eye shine in that area that we've had, because there's like that little area that's kind of open right off not over on the side facing the hospital, but the other side. You go up past a trailer park and over, there's like a big empty kind of field there. And guys, what's interesting to this is there are reports still to this day happening there. But what we think is so unique about Gray Station is, again, it's an active train track, so the deer get clobbered going through there. There have been reports in the past of deer being carried out of there over the shoulder of a Bigfoot. A lady jogging down that way observed a Bigfoot creature with one of these deer over its shoulder, taking it out of the area. It's just open season. It's just they don't even have to work for their food there.
Okay, so for some of us that don't live in that area, Gray Station is in proximity to the ridge. How?
It's on the ridge.
It's on the ridge. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's what's the nearest town to Gray Station?
Basically, it's at the Derry.
Derry Township, right?
Derry, Torrance, little village of Torrance, because you mentioned the hospital. That would be the state hospital.
Yep, it's right on the other side. You can see the hospital right from the train tracks.
Right. Yeah, so it's near Derry. It's Blairsville.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
It's still an active hospital. Yeah, it's still used.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to know so that I can pinpoint on a Google Earth and take a look at the area just from satellite perspective, just out of curiosity. I've heard of Gray Station a few times, but not enough times to go, I'm intrigued. Let's take a look at it. But I did hear the stories, and I think it came from you, Sean, talking about the deer that do get hit on the tracks there. And then, hey, they mysteriously disappear. And like you said, a witness saying that, why not? It's probably it's a movable feast buffet.
Yeah, and not to steal Tom's thunder there, but Gray Station is, and Altman will tell you, Tom, Gray Station's probably my favorite place to go in that area, just because I've always had really good, I don't want to say good luck, because it's not like we've had a sighting there, but we've had activity there. You know what I mean? You could call eyeshine a sighting, I guess, but you can't really see what makes it. But just a really active area. That and Keystone State Park, which is not far from that.
A good segue into the next. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Tom. Please, by all means, we can catch back to where I was going. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you talking about eyeshine, that kind of is a good segue into the evening I really wanted to tell you guys about. Happened back on August 1st, I believe was the date. And this again it's not as close to that first area that I was talking about. It's a little bit farther away. It's in a particular game land area. We had a pretty big crew this night. Jay Bachochin, Eric, myself, Ricky Cherby, Rebecca, Connie and Chris Brinker, Eric's sister and brother-in-law. We ventured into this particular game lands back into a clearing. And, we branched out. We did our normal thing. We did, calls, wood knocks, did hear some responses, some howls. A couple of times we thought we had heard some, whooping calls back. But at one point towards, in the evening, we had some people going through the area on quads. And, it just got to the point we said, you know what, it's too noisy. If there was anything here with these people going through, they're probably gone. So we kind of all got in the cars and we started back down the dirt road to head, kind of back out into civilization. And that's when all hell broke loose. In the first vehicle, Eric was driving and Jay was in the passenger seat. I was in the back seat. And as me and Jay were looking behind us, to the car behind us, Eric slammed on his brakes and screamed, "Did you see that?" And he said he saw eye shine above this one bush. He said the eyes were orange and about the size of baseballs. So, of course, we jumped out and, we're all grabbing the night vision. We're, getting whatever we can grab. Now, I'm going to go through this slow because there's actually so much to this event. I don't want to forget anything because it all interconnects and it's all important. So we get out of the cars, we're all trying to get our bearings, trying to look in with the night vision and so forth. About 3 cars back from us is Eric's sister and her husband, and she heard a grunt right in the brush. So Eric darts down there with his FLIR, he scopes around, and he does come across a large mass. He couldn't tell what it was, not saying it was a Bigfoot, but it was definitely something big. Scan, a little bit to the side. He comes back. It's not there anymore. So we're looking. We're not seeing anything else. So we go to the bush where Eric saw the eye shine because we wanted to measure. We wanted to see what we could find there. Now this is right on the side of the road, and the road, right when you get to the bush, it then goes down kind of into a little valley, not real deep, but probably about 10 or 15 feet down. Right below where Eric saw the eye shine, there was a dead tree laying on the ground. Right under where the eyes would have been the bark on the tree was rubbed off. So something, whatever it was, something was standing there. We measured the eye shine. It was 9.5 feet tall, or high, I should say, from the log. Now, right down in the brush, right where the eye shine was, there's kind of like a little cluster of bushes. It's really thick. Me and Chris, Eric's brother-in-law, we actually jumped down a little bit into the brush to try to see if we could, find anything, see anything. Well, what we found were 6 deer standing no more than 7 to 8 feet away from us. They were not moving. They must have just crossed the road prior to us getting there. Now, we all have flashlights. We all have headlights. We're lighting the place up. We're all excited. These deer didn't move. They just stared at me and Chris. So as we're looking at these deer and we're shining our lights farther down into the woods, we picked up eye shine. There were 3 particular trees. There were 2 live ones, and there was a dead one in the middle. Right behind the middle tree, we saw one eye. It looked like something was peeking out, and then when the flashlight hit the eye, it looked like it went back behind the tree. The deer at this point are looking in that direction, then they're looking at me and Chris. Then they're looking in that direction and back to us. And this went on for a good 20 minutes. These deer would not move. And for as much noise as we were making, and Jay had his GoPro, his body cam on, he filmed all of this. So if you would see the footage and you would hear how loud we are, these deer should have taken off like instantly. But they weren't moving. So after another few minutes, the deer started walking very slowly in a straight line between us and wherever this other tree was that we had seen the eye shine. Mm-hmm. And they're walking really slow, looking both ways. And they it's almost like they were tiptoeing. So after a little bit longer, we didn't find anything else. We weren't seeing any more eye shine. We decided to, just down the road a little ways, there was a left turn, and it kind of went down. It followed the forest down where we thought whatever this was may have went. So we all piled into cars. We made the turn. We go down maybe a mile or 2, something like that. We pulled over. Everybody gets out again. Within 5 minutes, I caught the eye shine again in my night vision. I grabbed Eric, pulled him over, put it on him, showed him exactly where. He saw the eye shine again as well. He said it's the exact same eyes he saw up above on the first, when he stopped the car. At this point, we didn't really venture much farther down there. We didn't know what it was. We couldn't pick it up on the FLIR at this point. We couldn't, other than the eye shine, we couldn't see or make out what it was. Could it have been a bear? We didn't know. So about 10 minutes or so after the last time that we actually saw the eye shine, somebody in the group went down to that exact tree or bush, stood there, and we again measured, and it was roughly about 9.5 feet tall. So it measured almost exactly the same height as the first eye shine that Eric saw.
That's a big
The
beastie.
next day, that was pretty much. I'm sorry?
So that's a big beastie right there, 9.5 feet. And that's just to the eye shine.
And I'm not, and honestly, guys, I'm not, I spent most of my time investigating hauntings. So my biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but, my biggest task right now was learning more about, what's out there normally. Like, I want to learn better how to spot what tracks or what, and, this, that, or whatever, just as far as nature goes. I did a little research, and according to what I've found, on a large side, a black bear in PA on its hind legs would be no more than 7 foot.
Yeah.
Now, Could it have been just a freakishly large bear? Yeah, it could have. I don't know. We didn't see a body. We can't say it was a Bigfoot, but 9.5 feet, I'm going to tell you right now, if that was a bear, our thought was with those deer there and because they passed right behind the bushes across the road where this thing originally was, whatever it was about to ambush those deer. And then we come around the corner with the high beams on and we, screwed it up. So the next day, a few of us went back trying to find tracks, which this field or this part of the forest, there were so many branches on the ground, so many thick leaves. There really wasn't anything as far as a track. We couldn't find any hair samples because there was some jagger bushes right there. We thought, maybe we can find that. We didn't find that. But the one thing we did see right where this thing would have gone down into the brush after Eric saw it, there was a large game trail of something big. And it went exactly in the direction to those 3 trees that Chris and I saw the eye shine, which is in a straight line. If it kept going in the same direction, would lead exactly to where we saw the eye shine at the second location. So, what it was, we can't say. You didn't see the body. But 9.5 feet, I don't know. I mean, it really makes me wonder.
Tom, now you said Eric caught something on his FLIR, like a mass. Was he able to kind of rule anything out when he saw that mass on his FLIR, or was it just kind of a combobulation of just heat signature?
Eric as well as I do. He's on the ultra conservative side as far as saying, what something is if he didn't actually see it clearly. So, he wasn't really sure. He wasn't sure if it was a tree or a big, a bush, but it gave a heat signature. Yeah. So when he panned back, he couldn't find it again, but again, without seeing it, you don't want to say, oh, I saw Daryl, because you really don't know what it was. But, with everything that happened that night, and again, I do have this footage. I could send you a DVD of it. I mean, everything just seemed to connect. Now, again, I'm not saying it was, a Sasquatch. Maybe it was a bear. A 9.5 foot bear. I mean, you guys would know better than I. Like I said, I'm newer to this aspect of the paranormal. Everything I've read, a large bear in PA would be 7 feet on its legs. So
I'd have to look into some records, Tom, but I don't think that those dimensions would match a bear in Pennsylvania. I think average, when they stand up, is like 5 feet to 6 feet tall. You're going large by over 6 feet to 7. I haven't seen one that's been 9 feet in PA or 9.5 feet. That would be an anomaly. Not saying it's not possible, like you're saying, but it'd be very, very rare. And for it to hang around and display the behaviors talking about, I just don't know. I don't see that, but the deer behavior is a little bit more telling. Like looking at you, looking back at that area, it's probably thinking in their mind, what's the path of less resistance out here? What's my chance of, I'm going to get hit with a bang stick or something's going to break my neck. You know what I mean? So you put yourself in the deer perspective, and 20 minutes is an awful long time for deer to hang around and make a decision.
Tom, I have a question.
Especially, like I said, it wasn't one deer that felt trapped. I mean, there was, between 4 and 6 of them. And even when they did start to move, they moved so gingerly. It's almost like somebody tiptoeing down the hall not to wake mom and dad up.
And I have to tell you, from my experience with deer, and I see them a lot here on my, semi-nightly drives back there in the summer and fall, and I talked to Vance, we're out in our cart and out doing things. You come up to a deer, they're looking at you for a couple minutes, you move and they're out of there, and they're used to me, and I move and they just take off out of there. For them to hang around for some time, that's a little special. To me, that indicates there's something a little bit scarier than you hanging around there. Vance, you had a question, buddy. What were you going to ask?
Tom, just as a gut instinct, and I know that the answer will probably be I don't know, but just as a gut instinct, from the first sighting of the eye shine and then the second sighting, do you have a gut reaction that it might have been the same creature or same animal, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I think the consensus with everyone there that night was all 3 times that eye shine was seen, it was of the same creature, because where it started, where Eric saw it, it went down. Going straight in that direction is the tree that I saw the eye shine for the first time. And then beyond that, going down further into the woods where we made the left and followed the road, it's almost in a straight line. It's almost like, it was going to ambush the deer. Damn, we screwed that up. So it jumped down in the woods till we left. We wouldn't leave. It went further. Then we went down and found it again. It just seems like, because
that makes sense.
When we measured it each time, granted, we could have been off a few inches here or there, but we got 9.5 feet pretty precisely all 3 times. So,
the crazy thing is, if you're getting eye shine at 9.5 feet, the eye set on most animals is 1/2 of the entire head. So you still have almost another foot to the top of the head. And if it's a conical head, that's even more.
Yeah.
You're talking a creature that's 10 feet tall, for crying out loud. Wow.
Yeah, and because the first thing Eric said was, did you see that? He couldn't believe how big the eyes were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he said they were like baseballs and they were orange. Now, I'm newer to this field, but I've never heard of anything with orange eye shine. I could be wrong. Maybe there's just something I don't know of, but I don't know. So,
Henry, did you have a question there? I'm sorry. It looked like, Henry, you had a question a moment ago.
No, I was just
okay.
Actually, I do want to make a statement. It seems like orange eye shine is very rare. I mean, we hear of red eye shine, we hear of green eye shine, we sometimes hear of blue eye shine, sometimes white eye shine, but orange eye shine is very rare.
See, what's interesting, though, and correlative or not, I don't know, the eye shine that we've seen at Gray Station in the past has been more of the orangish hue. And it's more like a red-orange, more of a red-orange that I can remember, a distinct, coloration. Green, green eye shine, to me, that's not that unusual. You can get that on, a myriad of different animals. But the, orangish kind of reddish eye shine, a little bit more difficult, I think, to replicate in the field, a little bit more telling if you're seeing something a little different. Orange, definitely, but the orange has been seen in that part of PA. I can verify that myself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm aware of the fact that there are, go ahead. I'm aware of the fact that there's, the great horned owl, those eyes are pretty big, and a lot of owls do eye shine an orange or almost a blood red. But, baseball size, that owl would have been Mothman then at that point. It was huge.
Don't start that now. That's going to be the next flap.
Yeah, right.
But, one other thing about this area of the game lands, it's within a radius that has had a lot of quote unquote Bigfoot sightings in the past several months. So as far as recent sightings, it's within a very active area. Yeah. Again, take it for what it's worth. I mean, again, we don't know, but I'll have to make you a copy and send you a copy of the DVD of Jay's footage. Because when you see us running around, I mean, Eric, Sean, I don't know how well Vance, the other guys know Eric, but I mean, he doesn't get excited easily.
No, Jay did show me that footage.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, I did see that footage. Wasn't that long ago, but yeah, he did show it to me.
Okay,
it's fascinating stuff.
No, yeah. Tom, I know Eric really well. My mentor and fostered me into this field, and he's awful critical of himself,
right.
and I think that's one of the things I've always taken away from him is that if he's given me the information, he's done the vetting. He's a hard critic on himself, and it just lends a little bit more credit. Not to say you're not credible, because I find you to be a very credible person. Sean. We just let anybody on this show. No, I think that your experiences out there just let a little bit more credence. And, again, my own experiences from that area, there's something going on in the Chestnut Ridge. And, you go to our friends, Seth Breedlove and the Small Town Monsters guy, right? Monster guys. They've been doing a lot of work down there in the Ridge and making it a little bit more popular and more, bringing it to a new audience. The Moth Boys, our friends over there in the Moth Boys podcast, Jake, Matt, and Mike, they've been out there with, some of our friends. And, it seems like the more people that go out there, the more they have experiences. Now, a skeptic could say, well, yeah, it's psychosomatic. You want to create it, so you go out there and have it. I can tell you from somebody who goes out in places and expect absolutely nothing to happen. And believe me, folks, I've been out there enough to know that 9 times out of 10, when I go out in the field, nothing happens. Why is it when I'm out in the field and something happens, I'm down on the damn Chestnut Ridge?
Well, the other thing too, you're right. A lot of people will say you saw what you wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, Bigfoot's not going to walk into CVS. So if you do want to get an experience, you got to be out in the woods. The more you're out there, the better chance, if you're ever to have a sighting, the better the chance you're actually going to have one. And if you're if you're out in the Chestnut Ridge on a regular basis, I think your odds are better.
Me too. You said Bigfoot's not going to walk into a CVS, but he almost got damn near hit by outside of one there in Jumminsville.
That's true, in Uniontown, yeah.
Down in Uniontown.
That was the Rite Aid, though.
No, Rite Aid, gotcha. It was one of those days.
Yeah, so he doesn't shop at CVS. He's Rite Aid exclusive.
He doesn't approve of their receipt paper.
That's right.
They're at the pharmacies. But, again, an area close to and that's not the only area in that only town in that area that's had, kind of suburban sightings. There's been some near that one restaurant in that area too, where that's happened. In fact, Kelly Beverly and I, Kelly was no longer with us, a great researcher, great friend of mine. She and I were at that area, and you could walk from behind that restaurant where that thing was seen right out into the main road of town. So, don't take for granted that, just living in this area, you're exclusive to that particular mountain range. These things are happening in these small towns down and near it and around it.
Right. And that, to be made about that as well, these towns we're talking about, if they're not in the ridge directly, they're at the base of the ridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, again, there's that Chestnut Ridge connection.
Vance, any follow-up?
Well, it brings up it begs the question, is there a creature coming out of the woods, to go do some dumpster diving at the restaurants and so on? It would seem bears do it, why not? Easy opportunity. You don't have to expend a whole lot of energy to find something to eat. So,
it happens a lot in Florida, Vance, skunk ape
so
sightings.
I hear. Yeah. So I hear.
Well, I say a lot, the sightings, it's not happening every Tuesday at the Waffle House, but.
No, but I could imagine, not that I know of any Sasquatches personally, but I could imagine the word would get out that, hey, there's easy pickings. You see that in all sorts of animal life. Here, I throw bird seed out on my patio here, and the next thing you know, there's 10,000 birds there. Well, one lets the other one know, hey, free meal. So I could see that these towns and areas would be frequented from time to time and
Mhm.
have an unusual sighting and say, oh, that's kind of weird. Well, maybe it's not that weird.
Right.
Tom, why do you think the Chestnut Ridge is so active? Do you have a theory? Because you would be, one of the many people that have been blessed to put their feet on this ridge, and I don't have an explanation for it myself.
I really don't. I mean, if I was going to give you my best guess, I mean, I think too, it depends on what angle or what theory you prescribe to as far as Bigfoot. If you believe he's just a uncategorized primate, then maybe there's just a small population that this ridge has good hunting, good water source. Like you said, there's a lot of little villages and towns that run right along it that they have food source. If you believe in the more paranormal, theories, a lot of people talk about window areas or portals. Now, if you believe that Sasquatch is paranormal in nature, then, like John Keel said, Point Pleasant was a window area or a portal. Maybe the Chestnut Ridge. I mean, for all the UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, from what I understand, there's been at least a couple of Dogman sightings. There's hauntings. There's everything. It's like a paranormal, smorgasbord. I mean, it's got everything. So if you prescribe to that line of thinking, then okay, maybe it's a window area. I'm open-minded, especially because I know when people like Stan are putting forth reports about these stranger sightings with UFOs and Bigfoots that disappear in a flash of light, I keep an open mind because none of us really know what is the truth at this point. But I have to admit, I lean closer toward it's a flesh and blood primate. Or some type of creature. I've even heard people, and Vance, this kind of goes back. You were talking about the orbs. Does have a Native American connection? Our friend Ron Murphy proposed a possible theory. If you believe in the paranormal side, could Bigfoot be part of the Fae? Could he be part of the fairy realm? And that's why it disappears. And if theoretically, if that is the case, a lot of those lights have been described or called fairy lights. They've been called elementals.
Right. Right.
So again, it really just, I think, depending on your point of view, my thought personally is that it's flesh and blood, and the ridge is ripe with wildlife, food source, water source. I mean, I don't think it could go wrong.
No.
And it can travel that ridge from West Virginia right into Indiana County.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10 on that answer. He really put something together there. I'm proud of you. That was really good. That was a lot better than hell if I know. That was that's always been my.
That's mine. I don't know. I'm new.
I'm not, but you're in this long enough. You hear stories, and as much as one wants to subscribe to one particular frame of mind and one thought, you because it's comfortable, right? There's some reality to some of these other things that are happening, and I'm sticking with flesh and blood because again, it's comfortable for me. I enjoy that, but. I like that thought. There's logic to it for me, but I'm telling you, guys, folks like Tom and myself and a lot of our other contemporaries have really experienced some strange things out there, and you do them no justice by ignoring them, right? Like we have to catalog it if we're going to be as scientific as possible. Yeah, we have to catalog it. We have to try to dispel as much of this stuff as we can, but sometimes. Right. You can't, if you can't replicate it, how can you dispel it if you can't replicate it? Right. Like it's easy to say you can't replicate it. So it never happened, but how can you replicate it to prove it didn't? It's just, you could keep going back and forth all day long. We're not going to have an answer to it till we at least collect one or collect something that gets us a little closer to this.
I don't want to step too far out and off the subject matter, but I had this thought, a few days ago. You have what is considered the human alien abduction, and that scenario has been going on for hundreds of years, perhaps thousands of years. But if you have a creature, and let's just say for hypothetical reasons that there is an alien life form that visits us, we are sheltered. I mean, we are sheltered in our homes. We're not constantly looking to the skies. If you have a semi-intelligent creature that's bipedal, that is outdoors, it may be more prone to observation from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's where the correlation comes in with UFO sightings and then a Bigfoot sighting. Maybe it's attracted to this humanoid creature out of curiosity. Who's to say? This is all speculation. It's not my theory. I kind of lean with, everybody else on the flesh and blood. I do believe there's probably that, and maybe the shock factor of witnessing two strange encounters simultaneously. Yeah, you may see the thing disappear just out of the shock factor, but I found it kind of interesting as a thought process because my tiny little pea brain thinks this way, that, if this creature is intelligent and is living in the great outdoors, there's no roof over the head for it to observe and absolutely. For it to be observed.
Henry, any thoughts on that? Any thoughts in general on our little, flesh and blood possibilities potentially out there?
Well, I mean, we know that John Green said once that he didn't feel comfortable explaining one mystery by bringing in another mystery, referring to those who believe in the paranormal aspect of Sasquatch and all that.
Well, and again, you go to that word comfort, right? Comfortable. John Green didn't say there's no way in heck it's not possible. He just said, I'm not comfortable. And, that's a real hard place to escape from. And there's truth to it, right? However, we have a lot more data than John Green had now. And we've, live in a different time, and people, there's a lot more people talking about their Bigfoot sightings now than there were when John Green was collecting data. And is it because it's becoming, again, it's at its peak of pop culture for now? Because remember, I think this is going to die down again at some point.
When it's discovered.
Maybe. I don't know. I think right now it's great for T-shirts, and it's still silly. And then when it becomes less silly, we're going to be looked as crackpots again, and we can go back out to the woods, and everybody else will be back to bingo and bowling. So
good.
We can have absolutely we can have our field back a little bit. But if we could all get out of our comfort zones a little bit and open our minds up, maybe we'll experience this on a whole nother dimension. And look, it's hard for me to say that. It really is, because Vance, I have some I don't want to say militant views because that'll get us banned, but I've got some very strict views on, the flesh and blood of this. But there are things, guys, just can't explain. And I guess we're going to have to leave it at that because we're almost out of time. But Tom, man, hell of a good job tonight, man. Hell of a good job.
Let me throw one more quick thought out there. This will, really just blow your mind, maybe.
Sure thing.
So, and again, I fall in line with you guys. Like I said, I lean towards flesh and blood, but I do keep an open mind. Now, we have different races of people on Earth, different, different characteristics. If we have a population of Sasquatch, who's to say we don't have within that population some that are only flesh and blood, and maybe some that, however possible, have other abilities. Yeah. Again, that's, we could sit here and stretch the ball of yarn all night long and go as far out as we want. But the bottom line is we don't know. And when I hear people lecturing or investigators and they come out and they say, it's fine if you have a theory or if you prescribe to one thing. But when I hear people say, no, this is what's going on, this is the truth, that's where it really irks me, because there are no experts. And you can't talk in absolutes about something that you absolutely don't have the answer to. So it's just, Here,
But
anyway, food for thought.
100% agree. 100% agree. Tom, that's taken us through the hour, my friend. You provided us with a lot of good content tonight. I can't thank you enough. One of our supporters over on Patreon, and folks, you too can be a supporter of the Sasquatch Experience by going to patreon.com/Sasquatch Experience. Help keep the show going. We've got big and great things coming your way. Grow with us. Also, special thanks to our friend Brian, who's also a supporter. You can go to our website, SasquatchExperience.com, as indicated in our videos. And if you're an experiencer, you get to see all our shows on the video stream. Go to our Facebook and Instagram, Sasquatch Experience, and finally, Squatch EXP on Twitter, because we're everywhere. We're socially active here at the Sasquatch Experience, doing this together for you. Vance, where can folks find you at?
Usually they can find me either in my work vehicle or sitting right here, but I'm always doing something squatchy related.
Absolutely. Tom, how about you? Where can folks connect with you and find you?
Well, they can really find me on Facebook. No special page, just, by name. They can, and I encourage anyone, especially in the Pittsburgh area or anywhere in PA, anybody that's had a sighting, reach out to either me through Facebook or the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society website. Please, send in your experience. Let us know. We'd love to get out there and take a look and investigate. Of course, we can keep it confidential, but, please reach out to us if anyone's out there and has a sighting to share.
Absolutely. And Henry, my friend, where can they get to you at?
Henry B. May the 4th on Facebook. That's
HBN number 4.
Yeah.
It's a special edition, folks. That guy right there. He's a classic. My Bigfoot brother since 2005 and ongoing. And of course, I'm Sean, the Fork Chop Forker. You can find me anywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Sean Forker. I'm my name. I'm not hard to find. Just be gentle. Don't be mean or rude. And don't email me or message me at 2 a.m. with your stupid questions, because I will tell you to read a book. It happens. But guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been a great show. Henry, you want to take us out with this?
Yeah, I'll be good. I'll be good at it.
This is Sasquatch Experience, folks. Keep on squatching.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.